All right, we're recording, so anything you say will be on the record. This is Charts Chat for January 23rd, 2018.
This will all go down on our permanent records.
This will all go down on your permanent records. That's right. And let me grab the Charts Chat meeting stuff and toss it here into the text so y'all can follow along. And so the first thing we had is GitHub IDs. Adnan, since you threw this up, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. So we talked about this last week. Sorry, not last week, 2 weeks ago. And I just wanted to follow up on the discussion and nail down what requirements we want to make out of this. Because there was a PR that I've linked here to move Chart Museum from incubator to stable, and this kind of came up again. So I think what we need to do is decide. I'm not sure if we actually came to a decision last time, but we need to decide on what we want to do, or even decide to not decide right now, which is fine, and then actually add that to the chart requirements so we actually have a place to point people when people ask about it.
Yeah, I'd say one good requirement would be to have at least one GitHub ID in there, so that we can at least ping someone in issues and stuff like that. Maybe not all of them have to be a GitHub ID, but to start, at least have one that we can use as kind of triaging.
So my idea was that I think everyone who is signing up to being owners should essentially be in the chart.yaml as well. There's no reason why they shouldn't be.
Sure.
And I'd kind of like for those two things to match up and not, differ too much. The one thing where I think we can vary is if someone wants to add an organization, which I think we discussed last time as well. And I think we decided organizations are fine as long as they're a GitHub orgs as well, so that people can find more things there. And that would be mostly for metadata purposes. Obviously, you wouldn't have an organization in the owners file. So I think it'd be fine to have extra maintainers in the owners file that are not, in the chart.yaml file that are not in the owners file, as long as they're organizations. I talked to Josh offline, and his main concern was that he didn't want his email address in the chart.yaml rather than just having his GitHub ID. So he was fine with having his GitHub ID,
Sure.
which is fine because he didn't realize that the email was actually optional.
Should we point out then, maybe in the documentation, that your name, GitHub ID for at least one real person is required, and then you can optionally add either an email address or a URL.
Okay.
Because there's a URL field as well to another location, such as an issue queue or things like that, or your personal website, however you want to do things. But you can do either of those, right?
Mm-hmm. And also, should we make a requirement that anyone in chart.yaml that is a person should also be in owners and vice versa?
So in owners, to get into the owners file, you have to become, and to be able to do anything, you have to become a member of the Kubernetes organization. So you've actually had to contribute stuff. And sometimes people stick people who've never contributed anything or been on a pull request in the chart maintainers file, I've discovered.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say we encourage or recommend you do owners files, but not that we require them.
So I would say that we'd want to keep them the same, and if we see people adding folks to owners in chart.yaml that shouldn't be there, we should call that out. But I feel like we shouldn't really deviate between who.
I don't think we should. You're absolutely right. I just don't know that every chart is ready to have an owners file for all of the owners who are listed. And so I would say we recommend every chart has an owners file, but we don't require it. But the maintainers, the real people, should match between the two.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it's if there is an owners file should match maintainers in chart.yaml.
And we recommend they use owners files.
Okay, cool.
Do you want to do a PR to update the doc difference now that you've got that?
Yep. I'll
Yeah,
do
if you ping me, I'll review it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think that covers everything. We should also mention that emails URLs are optional. Yeah, I think you mentioned that already.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. All right. So since Vic, you have to go at in about 20 minutes, right?
Actually, today I think my meeting got canceled, so I'm good.
Oh, sweet. Because I was going to bump up the thing that I wanted to bring up around you. And then, are you good with that discussion topic? We can move on to the next one.
Sure. Yeah. I'm good. I might have to jump off at 5:30, by the way, or
Okay.
20 minutes, I guess.
Okay.
Time zones.
Oh yeah. So the next one that I threw the rest on here, and so if folks have other ones, please throw them on. The next one that I had was actually Vic. Interesting to you, maybe. Charts are failing against Kubernetes head again.
Okay.
And I think it has to do with API versions not being available that might be used or something like that. I just briefly looked at it. The links will link off to that stuff. I didn't know if you wanted to look at it. I haven't filed any issues on it yet.
I'll take a look this week.
Okay.
So I just got back from a week-long conference, so I've been a little checked out since the beginning of the year even. But yeah, I'll throw in some time for this and my issue queue that's assigned to me.
Yeah, I haven't done any issues or anything yet on it. I just noticed that there was an issue over on Helm that had to do with some compatibility. I'm like, but charts are passing, and I went and I looked at it. And I'm like, it's red again.
Not so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. If there's anything I can do to help, let me know. But I linked to the relevant logs there.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. Likewise, if there's anything I can do to help. Is it
cool?
Does it? I'm just looking at the list here. It looks like the test failure is. It's kind of difficult to see. There's Helm charts is red and Helm test Jenkins is red.
Yes, I think Jenkins is the first one it tests. So if it's failing, then the rest of them fail. I'm going to try to just go back and see when the last time it succeeded was, if I can.
Yeah, well, the middle link that I gave there of the 3 links will take you to that page in the dashboard.
Oh, sweet.
Or focus on where it broke. I'm sorry, maybe it's the 3rd link. It's one of the links takes you right to where in the dashboard listing you can see it go from green to red.
Awesome.
Oh, right, yeah. It's the last one, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. Thanks. Well, I guess the next one that I had on here is actually moving stuff from incubator to stable. And I realized some incubator charts depend on other incubator charts. So if you move it from incubator to stable, then we either need to update the other incubator charts at the same time to point to the stable repo now, or we've got to do something like that, because if you move an incubator chart to stable and other incubator charts depend on it, now you've broken those incubator charts. Just because of the requirement dependencies. And I wasn't sure how we wanted to handle that. Do we leave the old incubator one there and mark it as deprecated? Do we go update the other charts in the same pull request? I know it's more than one chart.
Shouldn't it be pulling from the repository, which shouldn't lose the old versions of the charts that it's depending on?
That's true.
But so in general, so I think that is true. But in general, I don't think that any stable chart should include anything from incubator. I think that inherently makes it incubator if it's pulling anything from there. But the one place where I did see this, which is the Chart Museum PR, is using the common chart. So that's somewhat of a special case where I'm inclined to just let it pull the incubator. Remember, it packages the dependency and vendors it in the actual package. So when a user installs it, it's not like they're actually installing it from the incubator repo. But yeah, I don't think there's any other charts, unless I'm mistaken, Matt. I don't know if you've seen this, but are there any other charts that are unstable and point to incubator charts?
No, but there are charts in incubator that point to other incubator, and there was one today that I was looking at. I'm like, this one might be ready to move to stable, but it's depending on 2 other incubator charts. And I'm like, well, if it moves over, then what do you do? And what if you move one of its dependencies over from incubator to stable. So I'm looking at a chart that depends on 2 incubator charts. What if one of those dependencies is moved to stable? How does that continue to work? Because the next time they go to work on it, right, their dependency has moved and they don't have an update. They don't know. All of a sudden it's broken. And so it's being able to manage that. We shouldn't leave dead links when we move something. And so do we either copy the chart over and mark the incubator one as deprecated with a note saying this has been moved to stable, or do we update the links in the other dependent charts that we're managing here to say, okay, this is now in the stable repository, so we update that in a pull request as well. And I'm fine either way. It's all about managing dependencies and not leaving a dead link out there in our repo.
Yeah.
So are you saying if let's say A depends on B and B moves to stable,
yeah,
A needs to be updated to point to the stable chart? Is that what you're saying in incubator?
That, or you copy B from incubator to stable and mark the incubator version as deprecated because it's in stable, and so you have 2 copies of it.
So that's actually that's what we discussed last time, which we were supposed to do but haven't really been doing. When a chart moves, so far when we've moved charts from stable to incubator, we kind of just moved them over and left no source behind in incubator, which caused some issues. And so and I still have the action item to go back and deprecate some of those older charts that have been moved. But I lost my train of thought now.
So you're saying we should leave the chart behind and mark it as deprecated?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't
know. I think that makes sense.
So going forth, if we're moving stuff from incubator to stable, we mark the incubator chart as deprecated, and this makes it not conflict with the stable chart like it does in Monocular. If you leave them undeprecated, Monocular can actually handle that. Because remember, the actual chart in the repository will still be there. So if you're reading from the incubator repository, you won't really notice that it's deprecated unless you actually add that tag. And of course, if a chart moves from incubator to stable, it's kind of implied that the incubator chart is deprecated and it's no longer going to be developed there, right? But a dependency case is a little, I'm a little unsure about that. I think in general we don't want stable charts to reference.
Yeah. No. That wasn't the question. It was actually about moving and dependencies. And if we're going to copy it instead of move it, and then mark the incubator as deprecated, that's fine. Do you have the action item to go
back and fix back
and update the docs on it? We should document this.
Yes, we should document the process as well.
Do we have a procedures section of the docs yet? Like deprecating a chart or moving to stable or something like that? Because it seems like we're starting to get into some complex workflows where either we need automation or at least some, detailed steps on what to do so we don't screw it up.
Yeah, and even before we're able to automate it, we need to figure out what those automation steps are, right? We definitely need that section. So I think so far the deprecation policy has been in the Helm docs. It's kind of just mentioned there, and when it's describing the deprecated field, I just mentioned that this is what we do in the Kubernetes charts repo, which actually is out of date because it used to say that we would remove the source from the repository, but that's no longer true. And I think it makes sense to have a procedures docs in.
I can start the procedures doc with these 2 things.
And the other thing that probably should be there is the review process, right? Because that has also changed, and I don't know if we've updated the docs to reflect that we need to do /LGTM and /approve and stuff like that.
That is in one place, but that's in the reviewer guidelines. Okay. It is in there, yeah.
Right, yeah.
But I can go ahead and I can put that in the procedures doc as well.
Should this be in review guidelines or should it be a different doc?
Well, since it had to do with the review, that's why I ended up doing the pull request there.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it should be a section within this doc, but I think it's probably better to just have a separate doc called process.
Yeah, process or procedures. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
No, I can do
Sounds
that.
good. And yeah, so if you want to do that, and then I can, you can start in, and we can collaborate in the PR on that.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. The next one. So there's this Prometheus pull request, and I was going to bring it up more in general too. It seems Mr. Goodness has not been around lately, and he owns a bunch of charts. And some of this stuff is more complicated than, or I'm just not familiar with the charts or the applications. And so I'm worried to look, mark it as looks good to me. And since he is now not around, I'm not sure who to ping on some of these or how we want to handle the case where a chart maintainer has disappeared and we need to find reviewers for a chart.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, I'm good to kind of let it fly. It looks like there's tens of people interested in this getting in, so I'd imagine those tens of people will be interested in patching it, or at least one of the 10 will be interested in patching it to get it up to date. As long as there's a major version bump, I don't know how much more we can do. I mean, not knowing, Prometheus internals super deeply, if it kind of works, then I think we've got to get it through, unless we can ping Mike directly and say, hey, can you just spot check this and put it in, unless that's already been done.
Yeah, I've tried to ping him a few times on a few of the different charts. He has a case where he's the owner of a bunch of charts, and I haven't been able to get a hold of him for any of them. He's just, whatever's going on, he's not engaged right now. That's one of the things that I think might be a good recommendation for folks too, is try to have more than one chart maintainer.
Yeah.
Because people come and go, things happen. If you look at projects over time, you'll see sometimes one person's more engaged, other times other people. We were even talking about that recently on how Kubernetes core is that way, right? From release to release, you might see different people doing a lot of the reviews and stuff because of what's going on. And so that might be a good recommendation for folks. All right.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be cases like in this case, as Vic said, we can kind of review it ourselves, and even without knowing the internals, we can, based on the comments, we can kind of assume that it works okay.
I can review this one from a usability perspective, and none of the code looks
okay.
There's no crazy changes. I'll read what's in the README and make sure it maps to it and that it actually works, and then I'm going to merge it. If that's cool with you guys.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks.
Sounds good. Yeah. What we may want to do is add another procedure. Hey, this doc is starting to grow. For adopting charts that we've lost maintainers for. So we may want to decide on a certain amount of time where we consider maintainers to have abandoned a chart, and then maybe create an issue or something for it, and ask people if they want to adopt it, and then get a new maintainer for it that way. Because as you said, there's quite a few people interested in this. I'm seeing 44 comments, so that's quite a few people. And
exactly.
One of these people, maybe the author would like to take ownership of it. So.
Okay, so the procedures are adopting a chart, promoting from incubator to stable. What was the other one?
Adopting chart, and then the offering it up for adoption kind of situation.
Yeah, no, that's the second one. Promoting adoption. Wasn't there a third one we had?
There was
I think it might just be
LGTMs and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, but that's in the review guidelines, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we can link to the review guidelines from this.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So the next one I had was, should we run the meetings like the Helm one? I've kind of been going through the last few meetings and making sure we've got discussion agendas and trying to curate stuff so we have those. And then I come in and I hit record and I go upload the video. Should we kind of, I'm okay doing this, but I think we should democratize it and maybe have more folks do it that way and just curate it and make sure everything's done. And I'm not sure whether, because they've got like the issue Sherpa who says, I will go do this. And one of the things you'll see is my next topic is, how do we encourage more reviews? Because right now I'm noticing the maintainers, many of us are not getting a lot of reviews. Reinhard is killing it, but he can't be alone.
Yep.
And some of the days where he hasn't been killing it, we may have only merged one PR, and we're up to 160 open pull requests again.
Yep.
And so how can we do that?
This is the constant battle, right? We don't really have a carrot in this situation for getting people to do reviews. So I think maybe we can start with that. What is the benefit of doing reviews? Personally, I'm just invested in charts and have seen this grow, so I have some sort of personal attachment to it. So that's why I do it and I stick around. What other reasons can we have for folks to want to do this stuff, or for companies or creators of software to want to maintain their own, right? Because every piece of software that we have in charts comes from generally someone outside of the charts community. So what is the incentive for them to keep their chart up to date? That might be another way to look at it.
Yeah, no, I think to that, how many charts are? I had another bullet point here. How many charts do we have with owners files where those owners can actually go and LGTM and actually merge stuff? Are there any right now, or?
Yes, there are several that I've helped. I've actually got an open PR for one that's several weeks old that nobody's merged, to just add an owners file. There's a couple of really easy ones like that folks haven't merged. In fact, that's actually been one of my frustrations. I've got two. One that improves the debug logs by grabbing all the pod logs, actually all the container logs on all the pods, because you can have more than one container per pod. It actually goes through and displays all of those when something fails. There's one to add an owner's file. There's some easy ones like that. How do we get more of those reviewed too? Because I'd love to add more owners files, but if I write them up and nobody's merging them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
and I've got people to go through the Kubernetes org membership. There might be like one person who hasn't finished that yet. In fact, a couple of them, Vic, they're waiting on your +1 to get in.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday. Sorry, I was off yesterday.
No, I got it. And you've been traveling and stuff, so it can be hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I think one other thing we could do is we tried a while back to have some sort of prioritization mechanism. I don't know that we have that anymore, of saying like, hey, if you do have an hour, these are the 6 things to look at first to see if you can help with. So I don't know if we want to implement something like that, to have like a hot list or something like that says, hey, when you do have time, this is the first thing to look at. Then look at your, assigned issues, and then some sort of way to prioritize things, flag them in general.
I think as repository maintainers, and this will obviously become easier once we have owners files across the board and we have, other people merging their own PRs for their own charts. Our focus will be on these sorts of things, on these automation things, owners files, and improving those kind of things that other chart maintainers, not repo maintainers, will be able to do. So, and I think, Vic, the prioritization thing you're referring to is the milestone stuff that we tried before.
Yeah.
Which kind of had varied results. I think I do like the idea of just getting together at one time for an hour and hacking things out there. And one thing we could do is spend, I know you only have a half hour on these calls most of the time, but because we have the alternating weeks, one of the weeks could be used as a kind of hack period where we can just hack things together. So maybe next Tuesday.
That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I like that, because I have the time open otherwise. And if we just got together and reviewed, it might be helpful.
And I'll try to move my meeting that's in this half-hour block right now, John. It's my one-on-one. I'll see if there's a better time that doesn't collide with this.
Yeah, that'd be great. If not, maybe we can figure out another time. But yeah.
Yeah, and still though, in that case, if we do have that hour, it's generating that hot list and then burning through it, and then whatever's left, we can go off and do more asynchronously. But I think that's a good start, is to just have that kind of sprint, hour sprint or whatnot.
Yeah, completely agree.
And did you want to do the meeting, or do you want me to update or create a meeting notice for this that does the alternating weeks? Because we can have a separate description for it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
This is in the SIG apps calendar, right?
It was on the SIG apps calendar, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I can't remember if we invited SIG apps as a whole to these charts chats. I don't know. Looks like we've only invited the Kubernetes charts maintainers so far.
Yeah, I've brought it up in a couple of other venues, and it is linked off of the community repo if people want to go find it there. So the details are shared. And a couple of times I did have, early on when we were doing this, and I first shared it, there were weeks where I was the only one who showed up, and then some other people in the community showed up.
Okay.
Because once we got the new time, we started organizing more. We came more, but there were several meetings where it was like me and like folks from SUSA and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
In fact, I wonder if we actually told people that we were going to have these meetings in the week they were on, and the meeting description says it. We might have people show up and say, "Hey, can you review my thing? Can we talk through it real quick?" We might actually get some people like that.
So you might want to change it to office hours and say, that other one is the office hours, and if there's nobody there for office hours, it's just us triaging and just getting through the queue. And if they show up, they get priority for review of theirs, and that's a nice carrot for them.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic idea.
So I'm going to go ahead and invite the whole of Kubernetes SIG apps, which should be fun. Hopefully no one screams at me for that.
It's all good.
That's all right. I've done it.
That's what the lists are for.
And some of the SIGs do it so regularly that I'm like, man, I forgot I joined this list. Dismiss this.
Yeah.
Because I forget that I do that, and they send out so many things like this. So it's all right. It's not unusual. All right.
And then, Matt, would you mind? I'm a little bit like one order of connection removed from the process of getting someone in as a Kubernetes maintainer in order to get them into the owner's file. Would you mind quickly writing up that procedure too of like what the steps are in order?
To get them into the owner's file or get them to be Kubernetes org members?
I think the use case is I want them to be owners. However that happens, I guess it has to go through the Kubernetes maintainer process.
Yeah, hold on. Did I not write that up already?
Oh, if you did, that'd be awesome. I have at least one other chart owner of mine I can have.
Yeah, no. I wrote it up somewhere. Maybe I didn't. I swear I wrote it up. Yes, I did. Found it.
Sweet.
So on the README itself for the charts repo, there's a section called Owning and Maintaining a Chart.
Got it.
And it tells you the 2 steps to do to get in there and points to an example as well.
That's perfect. Yes, that's what I need. Awesome.
And it links over to the Kubernetes membership process, which is the part you've got to do for that.
Yep. And you only need one member, or did you need 2?
You need 2. So like the link that I dropped into you on Slack was for somebody who's waiting. They listed you as the second one with their contributions, and they're just waiting for a +1 reply to that from you, and then they'll get the invite. But that's it. Yeah, you need 2 sponsors who are already members.
Oh my God, I'm already getting notifications of people denying it.
Denying what?
The invite I just created for charts office hours.
Yeah.
It's going to be a deluge. Good luck. Don't get buried.
do we have any pull requests open for owners files right now? Yeah. All right. So this was all that was on our list to discuss today. Is there anything else we wanted to discuss? We got 26 minutes left.
I'm good for today. I'm going to try to just figure out the testing this week and try to do my assigned issues, and hopefully see you guys next Tuesday for office hours.
All right, sounds good. So then I'll stop the recording.